Have you ever wondered why the Israel-Palestine conflict, one of the longest-running disputes in modern history, has proven so difficult to resolve? This conflict, rooted in a complex blend of religious beliefs, political ideologies and territorial claims, has been a source of constant tension for over a century. Its intricacies and sensitivities have made it a particularly challenging issue to navigate, even for the most seasoned diplomats and negotiators. In this video, we aim to shed light on the chronological evolution of this conflict. We will explore the historical events that have shaped the course of this dispute, from its origins to the present day. We will also delve into some lesser-known aspects of the Israel-Palestine history, providing unique perspectives that often get overlooked in mainstream narratives. To truly understand this conflict, we must delve into the annals of history. So let's take that journey together, in the hope of gaining a deeper understanding of one of the world's most enduring conflicts. Our journey begins in the late 19th century, with the birth of Zionism. This movement, initially a response to rampant anti-Semitism across Europe, sought a homeland for the Jewish people, a place where they could live free from persecution. Theodor Herzl, an Austro-Hungarian journalist and the father of modern political Zionism, envisioned this homeland in Palestine, an area already inhabited by a majority Arab population. The idea of a Jewish homeland gained momentum, leading to a significant increase in Jewish migration to Palestine. This period, known as the First and Second Aliyah, saw thousands of Jews, primarily from Eastern Europe, making the journey to the Promised Land. However, this migration was not without conflict. The new arrivals found themselves in tension with the existing Arab population, leading to a rise in hostilities and setting the stage for future discord. As the 20th century dawned, the world was plunged into the chaos of World War I. The aftermath of the war saw the British Empire taking control of Palestine, previously under Ottoman rule. This transition of power brought with it the Balfour Declaration of 1917, a British government public statement supporting the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This declaration, while non-binding, further fueled Jewish migration and heightened tensions between the incoming Jewish settlers and the indigenous Arab population. The interwar years saw an increase in Jewish immigration, driven by economic hardships and the rise of anti-Semitic sentiments in Europe. As the Jewish population in Palestine grew, so too did the resistance from the Arab community, culminating in the Arab Revolt of 1936 to 1939. British attempts to quell the unrest only served to further inflame the situation. As World War II loomed, the tensions in Palestine were about to reach a boiling point. The stage was set for a conflict that would shape the region for decades to come, a conflict rooted in the struggle for identity, for homeland, and for survival. The origin story of the Israel-Palestine conflict is a tale of two peoples, each with their own narratives and claims to the land they call home. World War II brought unimaginable horrors, but also significant changes to the global political landscape. Emerging from the ashes of the Second World War, the world witnessed a mass shift in populations and boundaries. One of the most profound changes was the large-scale migration of Jewish people, a consequence of the Holocaust, which saw 6 million Jews systematically exterminated by Nazi Germany. As survivors sought refuge, many turned their gaze towards Palestine, a land synonymous with Jewish history and identity. Jewish immigration to Palestine was not new. It had been ongoing since the late 19th century, fueled by the Zionist movement's aspiration for a Jewish homeland. However, the atrocities of the Holocaust added a new urgency to this cause. Meanwhile, the British, who had governed Palestine since 1920, found themselves in an increasingly untenable position. The influx of Jewish immigrants stirred unrest among the Arab majority, leading to violent clashes. Unable to resolve the conflict, Britain referred the matter to the United Nations in 1947. The United Nations, in an attempt to quell the rising tensions, proposed a partition plan. This plan aimed to divide Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem under international administration. The Jewish community accepted the plan, seeing it as a necessary compromise to realize their dream of a Jewish state. The Arab community, however, rejected it, viewing it as a continuation of colonial disregard for their rights to self-determination. On May 14, 1948, the Jewish community declared the establishment of the State of Israel, a moment of profound significance for Jews worldwide. However, for the Palestinian Arabs, it marked the beginning of the Nakba, or catastrophe, as they faced displacement from their homes. The creation of Israel in 1948 sparked a conflict that has persisted to this day. The aftermath of World War II not only reshaped the world but also sowed the seeds for one of the most protracted and contentious conflicts of the 20th and 21st centuries. In the decades following 1948, the Israel-Palestine conflict would be marked by wars and uprisings. The tense atmosphere was first punctuated by the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, an immediate fallout of the United Nations decision to partition Palestine. In this war, Israel fought against a coalition of Arab states. The result was a victory for Israel, leading to an expansion of its territory beyond the original UN partition plan. Moving forward, we encounter the 1967 Six-Day War. In a dramatic show of preemptive self-defense, Israel launched strikes against Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. The war, lasting for only 6 days, led to a decisive victory for Israel. It resulted in the occupation of significant territories such as the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and Sinai Peninsula. The 1973 Yom Kippur War, also known as the October War, was another significant event. Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel on the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur. Despite initial successes by the Arab forces, Israel managed to turn the tide. However, the war shook Israel's confidence and led to a reassessment of its security policies. Between these wars, there were also significant uprisings, known as Intifadas. The first Intifada began in 1987, triggered by a fatal car accident involving Israeli and Palestinian vehicles. It was a largely unarmed grassroots uprising against Israel's long-standing occupation. It involved strikes, boycotts, civil disobedience, and sporadic violence. The second Intifada, erupting in 2000, was significantly different. It was characterized by an escalating cycle of violence, with suicide bombings targeting Israeli civilians and harsh, retaliatory measures by the Israeli forces. This period was marked by a substantial loss of life on both sides, causing a profound shift in the dynamics of the conflict. These wars and uprisings have left deep scars on both sides of the conflict. They have led to loss of life, displacement, and a deepening hatred and mistrust. Each side has its narrative of victimhood, and each sees the other as the aggressor. The echoes of these wars and uprisings continue to reverberate in the present, shaping the perspectives and policies of Israelis and Palestinians alike. Despite the bloodshed, there have been numerous attempts to bring peace to this troubled region. The first significant effort was the Oslo Accords, a set of agreements signed in the early 1990s between the government of Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization. The accords aimed to establish a framework for future negotiations, allowing for self-government by the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and West Bank. However, these accords fell short of their promise. The main reason was a lack of trust between the two parties, exacerbated by continued violence and the failure to implement agreed-upon provisions fully. The Camp David Summit in the year 2000 was another significant attempt to broker peace. Under the watchful eye of U.S. President Bill Clinton, Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat came together to negotiate a final status agreement. Despite the high hopes, the summit ended without an agreement, mainly due to disagreements over key issues such as the status of Jerusalem and the right of return for Palestinian refugees. International mediators have also played a significant role in the peace process. The United Nations, the United States, the European Union, and Russia, collectively known as the Quartet on the Middle East, have made repeated attempts to revive the stalled peace process. However, their efforts have been hindered by the lack of political will on both sides, the continuance of violence, and the deep-seated mistrust that exists between the Israelis and Palestinians. So why did these peace processes fail? There's no single answer to this question. Some argue that the agreements were flawed from the start, offering too many concessions to one side or the other. Others point to the lack of enforcement mechanisms, allowing each side to violate the terms without facing significant consequences. Then there's the issue of timing. Peace processes often coincide with periods of political instability, making it difficult for leaders to make the necessary compromises. And of course, there's the role of external actors, whose interference can often do more harm than good. But perhaps the most significant factor is the deep-seated animosity and mistrust between the two sides. Without a genuine desire for peace and a willingness to acknowledge the other's legitimate grievances, any peace process is doomed to fail. In the end, the failure of the peace process has had dire consequences. the collapse of peace talks has often led to more violence, a cycle that seems hard to break. It's a sobering reminder that while diplomacy is a necessary tool for resolving conflicts, it is not a magic bullet. It requires hard work, compromise, and most importantly, a sincere commitment to peace from all parties involved. The collapse of peace talks has often led to more violence, a cycle that seems hard to break. Despite the bleak history, the future of the Israel-Palestine conflict is not set in stone. Recent developments have shifted the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East, making the future of this conflict less predictable than ever. The Abraham Accords, brokered in 2020, saw the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain normalize relations with Israel. This marked a significant departure from the traditional stance of Arab nations, indicating a possible shift in regional dynamics. The accords have been hailed as a step towards peace, but they have also been met with criticism. Some argue that they sideline the Palestinian cause, pushing it further from the limelight. Others contend that they could serve as a catalyst for change, prompting other Arab countries to follow suit and potentially opening new avenues for negotiation. But the accords are just one piece of the puzzle. The changing global political climate, the rise of new world powers, and the shifting allegiances are all reshaping the context of the Israel-Palestine conflict. These changes could either escalate the conflict or create opportunities for resolution. Looking ahead, several scenarios could unfold. One possibility is a two-state solution, long considered the most viable option for peace. This would involve the establishment of an independent Palestinian state alongside Israel. However, given the current political climate and the ongoing expansion of Israeli settlements, many believe this solution is becoming increasingly unattainable. Another potential scenario involves a single binational state, where Israelis and Palestinians share equal rights and responsibilities. While this solution addresses the concept of equality, it's fraught with complexities, particularly around issues of identity, governance, and security. Ultimately, the future of the Israel-Palestine conflict is uncertain. It's a complex issue, deeply rooted in history, identity, and national aspirations. What is clear is that it will require sustained efforts from all parties, a willingness to compromise, and a commitment to dialogue. While the path to peace is fraught with challenges, it is a journey that must be taken for the sake of future generations. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a complex issue with deep historical roots. As we began our journey into the past, we traced the birth of Zionism, a national movement for the return of the Jewish people to their homeland, and the resumption of Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel. This movement, born out of the ashes of European anti-Semitism, would become a key player in the events that followed. The two world wars played a significant role in shaping the course of this conflict. The aftermath of the First World War saw Britain taking control of Palestine, while the horrific events of the Second World War created an international urgency to provide a homeland for the Jewish people. This led to the creation of Israel in 1948, an event that marked a moment of jubilation for some and a catastrophe for others. From there, we delved into the myriad wars and uprisings that ensued. The Arab-Israeli wars, the Intifadas, and the military operations, each fueled by a complex mix of national aspirations, religious beliefs, and territorial disputes. These events have left deep scars and unresolved issues that continue to fuel the conflict to this day. We also explored the peace processes and their failures. The Oslo Accords, the Camp David Summit, and countless other attempts at resolution, each falling short of achieving lasting peace. These failed processes reveal a bitter truth. Peace is more than just signed agreements and handshakes. It requires mutual understanding, respect, and compromise. As for the current situation and future, it remains fraught with uncertainty and tension. However, as we grapple with the complexities of this conflict, it is important to remember the human element. At the heart of this issue are people. People who have lived through decades of conflict, people who have lost their homes, their families, their sense of security, people longing for peace and justice. Understanding the past is crucial in navigating the future. As we grapple with the complexities of the Israel-Palestine conflict, let us remember that at the heart of this issue are people longing for peace and justice.